Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker, and this is WPwatercooler's WPblab episode number 127. This particular episode is brought to you by Desktop Server, makers of WordPress. Go to their website over at desktopserver.com. They got a bunch of cool stuff happening over there. One in particular is WP Site Sync. If you've never used WP Site Sync before, it's absolutely awesome. It's a way of being able to push data between sites and be able to have those two sites get synced up. So if you have a local development environment and a remote, kind of push those things over. It's super awesome. So feel free to go take a look at that over at serverpress.com. And also we have a awesome new sponsor called Peepso, and we'll be talking a little bit more about them later. Bridget, we've been totally rude to our guests at this point, so. Bridget, tell us about yourself real quick, and then we'll go on and start talking to them.
Them, our guests. Hey, everybody, I'm Bridget Willard. You can find out more about me at bridgetwillard.com. I do not do Instagram marketing as a standalone product. If you do, hit me up, because somebody keeps asking me who does Instagram, and I don't know anybody, actually. So that's really bizarre. But I do specialize with WordPress products and services. So I have room for a couple more clients. It's getting kind of packed, but if you need help with your WordPress product or service, find out more at bridgetwillard.com/hire-Bridget, or just go to bridgetwillard.com.
Awesome. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker. My website is jasontucker.blog. And I do this show as well as another show called WP Watercooler. You can go take a look at that. Tomorrow's going to be interesting because I'm not actually on the show. Steve's going to be hosting the show tomorrow, and we'll see what happens with that. It's kind of one of those wild card shows where Steve figures out how to use a computer, and then he starts telling everybody about WordPress stuff. So maybe he'll talk about Flash or Director, or one of those like really cool, fancy new products from back in the day. Jeff, tell us a little about yourself, Jeff. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. My name is Jeff Matson. I am on Twitter at the Jeff Matson. I handle documentation for Pagely, as well as some of their marketing, as well as I am leading up the various community things and general kind of taking control a little bit of marketing of our new product, NorthStack, that we're launching. You can also find me at jeffmatson.net, that I don't update very much, but you might find a snippet or two.
Awesome, man. Well, it's good to have you on. It's good to have you on. I've been using Pagely for, oh my gosh, I want to say it's been like 6 years or 5 years or something like that with one of my client sites. And I love that thing. It is amazing, the stuff that you guys have been doing, and your new dashboard is just phenomenal. I love it. So you guys have been doing good stuff over there. Congrats.
Thanks. I'm glad to hear it. The team is insanely talented. It's bizarre how just crazy smart everybody is. It's nuts. I only joined the team probably 4 or 5 months ago.
Oh, okay.
Before then I was working for Rocket Genius, working on Gravity Forms for the last 4 years or so.
Man, you just keep picking losers one after another, huh?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the most awesome companies in the space. So
Right?
Yeah, well, I looked at it and I was like, if I'm no longer going to be at Gravity Forms, who do I work for? And immediately Strebel came to mind, so I messaged him and I said, do you want to work on some stuff? And he goes, yeah, let's do it. He's like, I need some documentation help, and then we're trying to launch this NorthStack product, so do documentation until then, and then kind of do more NorthStack stuff after that. And so I'm like, all right, let's do it. So
that's cool. That's cool. So how do you want to structure this, Bridget? How do you want to kind of approach this idea of a saturated market, and how you kind of penetrate that saturated market?
Well, I mean, hosting is hosting, or it's not. Like I was thinking about, like, some of the things I'm really snobby about, and some of the things I'm not. I'm not snobby about pizza, hamburgers, or donuts. I like them all. Doesn't matter if it's frozen pizza or super fancy pizza, thick, thin, thick crust, hand tossed, with garlic, not garlic. If it's pizza, I like it, right? But I am snobby about old fashions. If you're not straining it, if there's not a big ice cube, what are you even doing? Just give me a shot of tequila. You know what I mean? So like in the WordPress, like I've been part of this. I've been part of marketing for WordPress since 2015. But like you see all these people in these Facebook groups like, I want really cheap hosting. I'm with whoever. And it's like under $10 a month. And like, I just don't want to pay anymore. It's just my hobby. And I was there for so long because I was a SiteGround, whatever. And then I moved over to Pressable after they became my client for a while until they took it in-house. And then I'm like $25 a month and they actually bill you every month. That's what I want. Like, it's so easy to take money from me if you actually bill me, not give me some $279 bill that say it's this much a month. You know what I mean? And then they handle stuff. Like if you're just a blogger, which we're not allowed to call ourselves, but so many people are like, oh, this is just my hobby. Yeah, you too could be a guru is my hobby for about 8 years until it became my job. That hobbies are the beginning of your passive projects, the beginning of another stream of income. So like I keep telling people, stop getting cheap ass hosting. I mean, I actually wrote a blog post, 25 things I spend more than $25 a month on, which was an argument for managed WordPress hosting. Let those people deal with all that nerd stuff. And you just keep writing. Like, why do I have to deal with all this stuff and weird security updates and cPanel is harder than like doing stuff in front page when I was doing stuff in HTML. Like, I don't want to deal with that. You know what I mean? So then like, it seems super saturated because it seems like there's a lot of choices. That's what I'm saying. Like, oh, WordPress hosting or website hosting is saturated. And then you have all the people who have their white label versions of it, and they have their own hosting or they have their own machines, or they might actually have their own machines, not even white labeling AWS or something. Yeah. And then you're like, well, how do I choose whatever? Like, so the regular people, like I think of content creators group on Facebook as regular Gen Pop, non-WordPress. We're not hanging out with everybody that works at a host on a regular basis, talking about whatever uptime, downtime, serverless, whatever, caching, I don't know, whatever words that makes a bingo talking to hosting people. And so like, but these people like the Gen Pop who actually have websites, they don't know anything. They just know the price.
But they learn everything when their site blows up and it goes nuts. Like somebody goes and puts their site on some, some huge list someplace, or they get a lot of traffic, or whoever the latest Oprah, type person is that goes and says, go check this out. Or somebody puts on Instagram and you go click on it and go to buy the stuff. Your site blows up and things start breaking, and you picked a $5 web host.
And you know what you got? $5.
Right.
Like, I feel like we need to stop devaluing. I like in construction, the lowest bid is the suicide bid, and you're never to take it. If they're doing something for that cheap, either it's crap, they don't understand the scope of work, or they're doing it for so cheap of a price, they're going to disappear. So when Jeff is like, let's talk about managed WordPress hosting. And I'm like, yeah, let's talk about a seemingly saturated market and why it's actually not saturated at all. And what's the next thing in WordPress hosting, which is managed AWS Service. So
yeah, so I was in
there's your segue, Jeff.
That's it. So I was actually in hosting before I worked for Gravity Forms too. So back then back before, what got me really into the WordPress community in general was when I worked for InMotion, right? So I was doing various support stuff for them, and then I switched over to doing content marketing, stuff like that. And then I got involved in the WordPress community, became their first kind of evangelist role and that sort of thing, and brought out I was one of the original developers on the Bold Grid project before they launched that sort of thing, back when it was like this super secret project for like 2 years everybody was working on. Yeah. And then I decided, I wanted to branch out a little bit and went to Gravity Forms and so on and so on. And now I found myself back to hosting. And what the crazy thing is that you see a lot of people who want really cheap hosting, right? Like they don't value it enough. And what are you getting for that $5, right? Like you have, the thing is that if you pay, $5 a month on your hosting, right? Just think about their support people, right? They got to pay their support people a decent wage, right? If they're not paying them, even if they're paying them a minimum wage, which I really hope that none of these support people are getting paid minimum wage, because that's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
But you figure even if they're getting paid minimum wage, which in Virginia here, it's like $7.75 or something like that, right? Like you talk to them an hour and that company lost money on you, not including obviously their electricity, their server uptime, their sysadmins that have to set things up, any advertising that they did on you. And then you drop a coupon on top of that. And they're really not making any money, right? So they're eating so much money off of you. And they're kind of betting at that price that you're not going to have any traffic or stuff like that. They're packing a server so hard that they're making sure that not everybody on the server is getting much traffic at that point, because if they got a ton of traffic, they're in trouble, right? So yeah, like hosting is just traditionally such a race to the bottom, right? But what happened years ago is that when Pagely came out with their Managed WordPress product, which was what created Managed WordPress, right? Like it didn't exist before Pagely at all. People were freaking out about $25 a month, right? Like people were freaking out about $15, $25 a month. Like, you're out of your mind. Why would I spend $15, $20 a month on hosting? And you're like, really? So like, what do you expect to get otherwise? And now Pagely's like, our cheapest plan starts at $200 a month. Like,
right.
But what we're selling is high-end concierge type stuff. Mm-hmm. Because I was there when Gravity Forms moved their site over to Pagely. I was one of the guys that was working late at night to get that site moved over and get all the new stuff launched and all that stuff. And Pagely absolutely totally blew my mind. And that was part of why I work for them now, is because it was very much that concierge service. We had somebody in Slack at midnight helping us, and somebody who was not even just at the time, we didn't even realize that. We thought it was like, oh, it's some random guy, right? But it's like, it's our head of hosting ops and stuff like that. Like the guy is up there, he's not a low level tech support guy. Like when you talk to Pagely, you're talking to a tierless system, and it's like that very much concierge, talk to you on Slack, that sort of thing. And that's kind of the same general idea that we're doing with NorthStack, but without the over the top support. So the people that don't want to spend all of that money to be able to get our support, because that's what we're really selling you, right? If you have an issue, we know we know about it before you do. You don't have to report the issue to us. We'll report it to you. If your site goes down for 5 seconds, you already know about it. We've already told you. But we're doing that. We're bringing that same kind of level of product via NorthStack on a pay-as-you-go. You're kind of on your own, but you can get some kind of support package on it. But if you don't want support, you don't want to pay that kind of money, you come over to NorthStack and you get an unbelievable product to be able to host your sites on, but without all of that extra stuff that you might not need, right? Like you got a small little startup, you don't need to be paying $200 a month. You got a small little startup, you're getting 10 hits a week or something like that. So you jump over to NorthStack and you pay next to nothing, right, for your hosting. You have a really fast site that scales. And then all of a sudden, your traffic spikes up. Somebody posted your stuff on Reddit, you hit front page, your traffic's spiking through the roof. Well, we just scale it up for you. So you're good. So
NorthStack is kind of like Nordstrom Rack.
Nordstrom Rack.
Ooh.
Nordstrom Rack.
I mean, if Pagely's like Nordstrom with the concierge service, like I went to a wedding a few years ago and I said, look, I'm 225 pounds, 214 today, by the way.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm like, I'm 46 years old. I have 200 whatever pounds. I need a dress that looks good for a semi-formal wedding. And the lady picked out 3 dresses, and I picked the first one, and it was $200 and something, and I was happy to pay it. Right? Because I don't have time to go through Marshalls or Nordstrom Rack or Macy's or wherever to find a dress that fits.
Yeah.
This is my first wedding as a single person. I wanted to look as good as possible, whatever. Like we pay for that kind of service. And you can do that at Nordstrom. And I didn't take it back like some of the people that do that. Stop doing that. So, but like Nordstrom Rack, go to Nordstrom Rack, pick out whatever I want. It's on sale.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like we need to do now with NorthStack is by developers for developers. But think of like a blogger, Jeff. How do you sell managed hosting to a person who thinks that their business is not that important?
Well, you teach them that their business is important. That's the good part, right? So like you look at it and you go, your livelihood. I would have people back when I worked in support, they would call and, when I was at InMotion doing shared hosting, things happen with shared hosting, right? You get server spikes, you get this and that, and things happen. Doesn't matter how hard you plan for it. But that would happen. A site would go down and somebody's like, I'm losing millions of dollars. And I go, on your $5 plan, that's really how low you value your business? Like, come on, guys. Like either you're lying to me about your millions of dollars, which is generally the case anyways. Or, you value your site so little that you're willing to spend a small amount of money on it when you could spend a little bit more and get top-notch service kind of thing like that, and make sure that your stuff never goes down.
Yeah, we get people all the time that come into our local meetup that they've either spent way too much on their hosting because they think, oh, my site, come on, you're talking about my site. Like my site brings everybody to the site. Like my content's the best. My tchotchke thing that I'm selling in WooCommerce is the best thing ever. They're going to come to the site. I got to pay the $500 for hosting. And then you go log in there and you're like, dude, you have like 4 people have gone to your site and 2 of them from the same IP address. Like, what's going on here? So, but you have those folks. Well, they're kind of thinking ahead, which there's nothing wrong with thinking ahead. But you're saying with something like NorthStack, you're able to not have to think ahead. Rather, you've already picked the right solution that can scale, right?
Right. That's exactly how NorthStack is designed. So it's made for, as it exists right now, it's primarily made for developers, right? Which we may change or evolve down the road. But mainly what we wanted to offer is something so that, say you're a developer and you make a small product. Like, for example, I have this little thing called WordBits. That's just a dumb project of mine. What it does, it takes little code snippets and it generates some WordPress plugins out of them. And I have that thing just sitting on a server. I don't know if I'll ever make money with it. Not really trying, right? Like, it's just a fun little project at that point. And it gets a couple hits here and there, but I never want to take it down, right? And like, that's the kind of project, especially that is useful in NorthStack on one end, because if all of a sudden I decide I want to do something and it kicks up and it's getting millions of users a day, then NorthStack's going to scale that with me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay for what I use, and then that's it. So if all of a sudden somebody saw my project and thought it was awesome and it hit front page of Reddit and hit national news and turned into this massive thing, it doesn't matter how much traffic you throw at it. It's just going to scale with it. And then, of course, NorthStack's got all this built-in page caching and everything. It delivers things statically. It's all based on CDNs and things like that. So it's built in a way so that if I was getting a small amount of traffic and all of a sudden it kicked up to millions of traffic, it moves up with me. And then say that traffic dies down, right? That big hype just disappears. Then it just scales back down with you and you pay for that. You're paying for the amount of resources you're using rather than a general bucket pool.
Yeah. So instead of a cell phone minutes, you're pay as you go.
Right. And I've been seeing a lot of these trends, right? There's a lot of people that are going straight to running their own little DigitalOcean box for $5 or something like that, or Linode or Vulture or any of those other little small VPS companies, and they're running these VPSs, and they're like, oh well, I can just do it so much cheaper and faster, on my own. I'm like, that's fair, right? Like, you're just trying to save some money, and I get it. And I have boxes like that hold like Git repos and stuff, But with this, you don't have to have that server maintenance stuff, because if you're somebody that's running like a DigitalOcean box or something, you got to make sure those security patches are up to date, or you got to make sure that if there's an attack coming in at your site and you're just getting slammed, a lot of times you don't know what to do. Or you get that scenario where all that traffic kicks up and now all of a sudden you got to try to resize a box. It's completely timing out trying to connect to it. It's miserable when those boxes go nuts. So what this does is instead, you just scale up with it, and we manage all the back end and everything. So we're handling all of your, all of the caching layer that's happening on. We're handling the web server layer. We're handling the CDN. We're handling all those things. You just push your code via command line utility we use. That you download the command line, you create an app. Just type in NorthStack app create. It creates the app in your command line, and then when you want to push your code, you just tell it to push, and it pushes your code up, deploys it, and you're good to go.
Nice. That's cool.
It's really cool. It's a really cool project, and I'm so unbelievably excited for it to come out, because
you guys made something that, like you said, with a DigitalOcean box, it's simple to go and push something to one of those, but you don't have the added benefits of all of this infrastructure that's been built around it to make sure this works correctly. And just like if Bridget, like the way I was trying to think of an easy analogy to make this thing work well is that, not that you need one, but I'm just saying that, make this, audience, is that if you have like a small apartment and you're paying like, say $500 a month for the small apartment. We live in California, so $500 a month. Other places, maybe a huge place. But for $500 a month, you get like a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, nothing, right? And then after a while, you end up having like a Christmas party, and you want to have all these people show up. Well, now your living room becomes 8 times the size that it needs to be, allows all those people, all that traffic to go through.
Oh my God, that would be so awesome.
Right.
Could you imagine if that happened for real?
Like you virtualized your house,
Yeah.
But this ability to quickly kind of go from one to the other. What's this term? There's like an acronym that just defines this that is a bit foreign to me, but it's this idea of having a full stack, fully built out infrastructure for this. Do you remember? You know what I'm talking about? It's almost like SaaS, but it's for a particular type of fully built up infrastructure. I can't remember what it was.
I'm not thinking off the top of my head.
Yeah, I saw a couple different companies that were talking about this sort of thing, and it's just interesting. I mean, you have competitors in this space. There's definitely people that are doing this type of thing, right? It's just, are they doing it the same way that you guys are doing it?
I mean, it seems like they're doing it on their own with AWS. This sounds like you're getting a lot of help.
Yeah.
Which, who wants to spend their time doing that? Like, let's talk about how important it is to outsource this stuff. That's really where you want to spend your billable hours, managing a web host or managing Amazon Web Services.
Absolutely. Like the thing is too, it's not just smaller people that, don't want to put the resources and effort into. It's people who have a basically unlimited amount of resources that still put their money into us managing their stuff. I mean, look at our client list, right? Like you have Disney on there. Like Disney has plenty of money. You know what I mean? Like Disney is one of the largest companies in the world, and they are still paying Pagely to manage all of their servers and everything, when they could absolutely, hire some kind of team or something like that to deploy their stuff on AWS. So if they just wanted AWS, they could just go that route, right? But they go to us because they know that we are extra specialized in it. We take really good care of them, and we take full credit if there's anything that goes wrong. We monitor their stuff 24/7. They know that they have a team that's fully watching them at all at all the time to make sure that everything goes perfectly smoothly. So that's the biggest thing. That's what people get when they spend a little bit more on hosting, and they really kind of dig into what they're getting, is that support level. Because you could, a $5 VPS is a $5 VPS most of the time, right? Like those little servers, like you can spin one up at DigitalOcean or Linode or whatever you want. It comes down to it. It's really pretty much the same thing, right? But when it comes down to getting things like support and custom things that we've built on our stack to make sure that your site performs flawlessly, we're constantly paying attention to your plugins. We're making sure that if there's any release security vulnerabilities, that we immediately know and immediately patch you if we're not already creating a patch ahead of time for it. We're doing all of these different things to make sure that you're always safe at all times. And that's what people are really getting when they're looking at higher quality hosting.
Yeah. I was watching Josh's talk that he did at WordCamp Phoenix. and that was a pretty cool talk. Were you present when that?
I wasn't there, but I did watch the video.
Yeah, really good stuff. And it was neat because I was listening to him essentially kind of go through the history of Pagely and how they started out, how they kind of went through, the highs and the lows, the stuff breaking, stuff staying up, all those sorts of, kind of. It's Josh. The dude could tell a good story, and he did, and it was super fun to kind of go through all of that. And we've been doing WordPress as a community for many years now. At this point, we've seen almost 2 decades worth of stuff going through all of this, and a lot of us have gotten older. The companies have gotten older. We've gotten more mature in the way that we approach things.
In some ways,
but I like the fact that he and you guys can go dig around and look for that particular video. But it's really neat to kind of see how someone took a business that way and then found that he could not just make money off of just cheap, crappy hosting that all everybody else was doing. It's like, oh yeah, there's all these other companies that are doing it. It's like, no, we're not doing that. We're doing premium hosting, and here's how we're going to do this premium hosting. And then to top it off, it's like, okay, well, now we do that. Let's do this fully scalable thing. It's cool. It means that your company is actually approaching this in the right way, and that you're able to, if you want to go with fully hosted, fully managed, fully everything, or hey, we built everything for you, and so feel free to kind of put your data on there and get it hosted up.
Cool. Some really cool stuff. Yeah. I mean, it depends on, your individual needs and that sort of thing. And that's what we want to make sure that people are taken care of, right? If they have different kinds of needs, if NorthStack, something like NorthStack's a better fit for them, why can't we bring that same architecture over to a lower price point just without that crazy support that we got going on?
Yeah.
Because it's not, it's not for everybody.
How do you differentiate now? Like, how do you show that you're able, that you guys are doing this and that you're different than the other companies that are out there?
Well, part of it's reputation, right? Like a lot of us at Pagely has a reputation, right? We have a outstanding list of clients. We were the first ones to come up with this, and we've been doing so. Of course, we've been doing it the longest, and we put our price points in a way that we can, take care of our employees too, and things like that, so that everybody's nice and happy and everybody's doing a great job. So the differentiator is that we use Pagely to say, look, this is who we are. These are the same people that are working on NorthStack. But say you're not going to quite talk to them as much, or that sort of thing, because there's a little bit of a different payment structure kind of thing. So we just pretty much use the Pagely name at this point. And a lot of it's word of mouth. That's what we're trying to do here. And that's why I was brought on to lead the community stuff, is that historically I've been good at just making friends and talking to people. And that's what we really want to do. We want to go out there and say, look, we got this really cool product, decide for yourself kind of thing. Because that's what really shows it, right? Like if your buddy tells you, hey, check this thing out, it's going to work way better than any ad in the world.
Well, and also you are understanding who your audience is. Like before when we were chatting, you're like, it's by developers for developers, right? So it's not for me. Okay, that's fine. Right. And that's fine.
Fair.
But a lot of people want to just hit everybody with a wide stroke, just volume for the sake of volume. And that's always a bad way to do things.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
if everybody's your customer, nobody's your customer, right? And so I like that approach. I like the way that you guys are going about it. And I mean, I know I don't use Pagely, obviously, but I know some of the people that work there, and they have a great, to me, they're like Trader Joe's, right? They have a very low turnover. In WordPress, there is an extremely high turnover in WordPress businesses.
So much so we've had to build like ways of transferring sites from one host to another with a, kind of a flick of the wrist kind of thing.
I mean, not just with changing services, but their employees.
There's
some notorious companies where you're like, oh, I'm working here. No, I'm working here. Now I'm working here. Now I'm working somewhere else. And somebody like me who reads Twitter all day for a living, or for 4 hours a day at least, I know who's working where, although I missed that you weren't at Gravity Forums. I felt really dumb.
It was one quick little small tweet that I've pretty much put out.
Okay, that's why.
So what I do is I don't necessarily, the way I approach marketing in general isn't normally the same kind of ways other people do, right? And I don't throw constantly like company tweets out there and stuff like that. I was already talking about Pagely before I even worked for them, because I would throw them a, hey, you guys are doing an awesome job, you know, when they really help me out. So there's not really much difference in my social media. So I'm not surprised. Not surprised at all.
I mean, that's a good way to have it. Like your brand is you, and that's fine. But I'm just saying there's a lot of times where you see acquisitions, mergers, people leaving, going, a lot of turnover. And to me, when it comes to a service I want to use, I don't want to use a service as a big turnover. That's just me, because I feel like if they're not keeping their employees happy, they've got internal issues. Right. And so like in the retail world, Costco and Trader Joe's have one of the highest levels of employee happiness and retention.
Okay.
So like I'm fine spending my money at Trader Joe's, right? And like, first of all, they have the best snacks. But like my sister is a union grocery store worker, so this is why it's a big deal. Like, in in the union, they're treated really well. The customer service is maybe better, but the truth is that Trader Joe's has a better overall experience. So for me, if I were when I recommend companies to my friends and to Facebook groups like content creators, I'm like, look at how they treat their employees. Go check them out on social media. You guys are social media nerds. Like, go see look at Nextdoor. I mean, not Nextdoor.
Glassdoor?
Glassdoor. Nextdoor is a dumpster fire. Look at Glassdoor and see like how their people are talking about them. Right. To me, when I'm using a service, especially a service that costs, especially a service that makes a difference in my business, I want to make sure that they're treating their employees well. So that's a defining factor to me, and Pagely has a good reputation for that.
Well, there's even more to that too. Like there's if they are their employees pushing their product because they have to, and because they're getting a paycheck and they're getting paid to do it. Because I already tell my employers straight up. Like I told Strebel this when I was hired. I was like, I do not touch anything I don't believe in. Simple as that. And I told him, I said, if it gets to any point that I don't like our product and I'm not absolutely in love with it, or it's not what I want it to be, I told him I'll leave. No problem.
Yeah.
But I told him I absolutely love everything that I've seen, and I met with the team for a long period of time, and I talked to all them, and I knew them, from prior experiences and things like that. And I was like, right now you got me, because I will absolutely support your product 100%, whether you're paying me or not. So you might as well pay me to do it too. You know what I mean? But the one thing I won't do ever is compromise my own name, right? Because I've built everything that I've built on my name, but because of my name, right? Like I built my name based on trust. And when I tell somebody, hey, check this product out or something, it's not just because they're not giving me a paycheck. Most of the time they're not, right? Like most of the time it's not the company I work for. It's because I have a reputation to uphold. Because if I give somebody back a bad recommendation, they're not gonna take that recommendation from me next time.
Yep.
Right.
So I keep my reputation above all else. And that's what I use to market products and things like that.
Yeah. Personal branding.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
It matters. It does. What, Jason?
I was just thinking of how someone like me who has a client who's a customer of Pagely can talk about, because I have never recommended Pagely at at a WordPress meetup level, where the person's like, I have a semi-popular dog blog, and all of my whole family goes to it, and that's it. It's like, how do you couldn't say like, oh, but it's $200, like just, whatever, 250 or whatever, just go host over here. You can't do that. But I think with NorthStack, I think you can do that sort of thing if that person's willing to kind of put in the effort to figure out how to upload and manage and do all that stuff. Are you guys partnering with anybody on like essentially like providing that type of service of getting sites onto that platform? Like, because of the fact that it's for developers by developers, I always went and said, like, for instance, when I was using WP Engine for a lot of my stuff, I would say, go put your site on WP Engine. It's so much easier to just put the stuff on there and get it up and running. How do you get that same type of level for something like NorthStack? Like, how do you go and just say, we should put your sites up on there?
So with NorthStack, it's just kind of a different kind of audience, right? We don't want it to be necessarily a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. The way it is developed is it makes developers' lives way easier, right? But it may make a more basic user that's maybe never used a command line tool or something like that.
Right.
It would make it hard for them to use.
So more like agencies then?
More agencies, because of course we have a lot of the different account level type things that we have at Pagely. So such as you have an organization, you can add multiple collaborators with different permissions and that sort of thing all attached to it.
Which is super handy, by the way.
It's unbelievably handy. I love it.
I don't have to pretend to be my client. I just go, hi, I'm Jason. I'm like, hey, Jason, how's it going?
You just log in your own account, because how else are you going to have, two-factor or something like that, right?
Right.
That's another big thing is we absolutely, urge everybody to always use two-factor regardless. Mainly because it's just, we don't want you to get compromised, especially with hosting that you're paying a good chunk of change for, and your site's probably pretty important to you. So we have those different features that are all built in. So they're great for agencies. But we also want, we want the typical developer that is able to do, that just wants to that needs to get their client's site published. Their client's never going to touch their site anyways. So, put it on. They're never going to touch their hosting, right? They just want to make sure it works. And if it works, it's good. And the client can figure it out anyways, right? If they really tried or wanted to pay somebody an hour of freelance or something to do it. But so we wanted to be able to make it so that there's like a command line tool. And so instead of, my typical thing is when I take on freelance clients, deploying their code and pulling their code down, everything is usually a mess, right? I usually keep their code on my own individual GitHub repos and everything like that. And then I push their GitHub repos, and my build process runs everything and it builds it. And then I just either typically what I'm doing is I'm building a custom plugin for them. So my build process builds the plugin, it's a nice little zip file, and I go, here you go, have fun. But the agencies and the individuals that are doing a full site for somebody, a lot of times that they want to be able to say, all right, this change is being made. I need to push it. It needs to build, and it needs to upload directly to their site. And it needs to turn it live. What NorthStack does is it handles all those things for you. So it'll handle your build time scripts. It'll handle all of your deployments for you. It'll do all of those different things. So with NorthStack, you click one button and integrate and attach a GitHub account to you attach a GitHub repo to your app, and then you push to that GitHub repo, and boom, all of a sudden it's just building your code, runs all your build scripts and everything, and throws it right on the server. And it does all of those.
That's like it's a really good solution for you.
Right, exactly. Because that's how people should be doing it anyways, right? Like we even tell our Pagely clients, we're like, no, you need to keep all of your code in source control. You need to have automatic builds. You need to have automatic checking and unit tests and things like that running. And then you need to be able to push them automated so that you don't have to manually go in there and overwrite files. And then all of a sudden you break a permission or something like that, or you forget a file and your site fails, and then boom, there goes your site and there goes all your different users.
Right.
Wow. We want to make sure that stuff's good. So what's the best way to do it? Automated deployments.
That's a really good segue for our tool or tip of the week, Jeff. So
let's do it.
The tool or tip of the week this week is brought to you by Peepso. Peepso is a super light, free social network plugin for WordPress that allows you to quickly and effortlessly add a social network or an online community right inside your WordPress site. Your community, your way. You can find out more at peepso.com, peepso.com. So my tool or tip of the week is a book. Somebody told me to buy this book, Everybody Writes by Anne Hanley, quite a long time ago. She's from marketingprofs.com. And I was like, whatever. But being a self-taught, soft skills person, I wasn't an English major. I mean, I graduated from college and everything like that. But, I wasn't specifically educated as a copywriter, so I do it. So what I really like about this book is that they have bite-sized chapters that are very, very short because it's really just a rule. So it'll go by like, place the most important beginning words at the beginning of the sentence, following a writing GPS. It's maybe 5 pages. The more to think, the easier. It's not a novel. It's more of a guideline. And when I get stuck, I'm only in chapter 21, keep it simple but not simplistic. She gives really great examples of like how you can turn a sentence into something more powerful. It's not just blah, 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 theoretical talking, which is so annoying because like I've seen enough theoretical, like let me see exactly what you mean. So for example, just so that I can be specific, in her chapter, Use Familiar Yet Surprising Analogies, she said, instead of saying the leaves of a giant pumpkin plant are huge, she said, try the pumpkin leaves are the size of trash can lids covering pumpkins the size of beer kegs. Instead of saying the pavement is covered with tiny speed bumps that are 10 to 12 millimeters in diameter, she says, write it this way. The pavement is covered with tiny speed bumps that look like acorn caps under the tar.
Comparison.
Right.
Yeah.
So like she's like giving actual examples, not just saying use analogies, next chapter. You know what I mean? So to me, it's more of a tool and less of a book.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad that I said, okay, this has been sitting on my shelf for a long, long time. I'm going to start reading a couple chapters every day. So, everybody knows I love HemingwayApp.com, which is also an app too. But this is really helpful because it's good to be reminded even of the things because reinforcement in the learning process is just as powerful, if not more powerful than the learning itself. Somebody said, I didn't think that was a very good book. Well, yeah, if you're writing, you should know this stuff already. But it's good to be reminded of it.
Right.
Because in tech, in marketing, we're constantly always learning, and it's so easy to go backwards. Like even one of my friends from a journalism background, would do little side profile pictures and then wrap the text around it like newspapers. Well, that's not how we blog. We put wide landscape feature images. That's how you do it now. We just had a client who didn't like headers. He wanted to write it in like an article. I'm like, this is an article. Articles have headers. People scan, they don't read. Yeah, I spent 20 minutes talking to him about that and why it's really important to break up your text with headers.
Right.
And then you have virtual assistants who choose H4s because it looks better. Like, okay, so you're all over the map, like on this stuff that's just supposed to be super easy.
Right.
So it's good to be reminded, like on some simple things that make your writing consumable, because of course you can like cook in your kitchen and people eat it or they don't. But if you want a restaurant, people are going to have to pay for it. So make your old fashions with one ice cube, a big one. Strain it after you muddle it. Okay. Next.
Jeff, do you have something you want me to jump in real quick and you can dig around for a minute?
I just did a quick little jump dig to find something there. Well, my camera just freaked out. That was weird. Anyways, so yeah, I actually got one quick thing, which is The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. Is actually a book that I have on my Kindle right now. Ries, one of the two. But it's a really cool book on how to create kind of a radical product that hasn't ever been to market, hasn't been tested, things like that. A lot of times, you create a product, and if it's this huge revolutionary idea, you may know the entire idea behind it, but a lot of people probably don't, or don't understand it, right? If you told somebody 10 years ago you need a smartphone, they'd be like, well, maybe not so much. You know what I mean? Now my grandmother's got a smartphone. So, you know, it kind of brings you to, it tells you how to sell a product in a way that, and create the product in a way that it makes sense, and you're able to bring it to market quite easily, without a whole lot of, you know, research and development and things, just in case it does fail. Because a lot of times it probably is going to fail, right? I failed plenty of times.
Cool.
Yep.
What's the name of the book again? Just
It is called the Lean Startup.
The Lean Startup.
Perfect. So I'm trying to compare. I'm trying to figure out if I should, between these two different apps I wanted to show on my phone. But I'm going to show the one that's been at least has been talked about quite a bit in the Mac and iOS communities. You know, there's this app called Vignette, and Vignette is made by a podcaster that wanted to be able to go through all these different places that are out on the internet and look for people's contact photos. So they scan through Facebook, they scan through Twitter, they scan through a whole bunch of different sites. Actually uses Gravatar, so look to see if you have a Gravatar. So look through all these places, and then it'll give you. And I'm gonna cover up some names here, but here's some faces. And so what it does is it goes like, these people you don't have photos for. It just says A, C, D, M.
Yeah, I hate that.
So you hit this button, it says, I'm going to update 40 contacts. You hit save contacts, and then it goes boom, 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 boom. And it just saves.
Oh my God, I need that.
Photos. Yeah.
I think I actually saw an ad for that.
Yeah.
The other day. It looked cool. So I'm going to try it if you've tried it.
Yep. It's free to download, to try out, and it'll run through all your people and see if it can find photos for them or not. And if it does find a photo, then it will allow you to set that photo on your phone. And next time they call you, it'll be the most up-to-date photo. Now you can run this over and over again, which is really neat because you know, if a bunch of people started adding new photos, you can hit the button and it'll go and update all your photos. And
you know, that's important for dating.
Yeah, I love having updated photos. Even on WPwatercooler's website, I reference all the Gravatars for everything on there, and it just makes it so that when somebody updates their photo, like Bridget, every other week she updates her photo. I don't have to grab it. It just goes
exactly.
Updates it.
I update my photo because I changed my hair a lot. Right? I actually put that on my Bumble profile. I changed my hair a lot.
I changed my beard a lot. So
I know last time your picture is way long.
Yeah, it's usually. I mean, it's usually a good foot long. But every once in a while, I just chop it all off and grow it again because. I don't want it down to my knees, but I enjoy growing it, I guess.
It's fun. I mean, that's the thing. It's like that's a really fun way to do it too, because when people call you and it shows up on the thing, you know.
Yeah. Just get a nice updated version of your photos. So.
Like, new phone, who's this? Like, do you even believe people who say that now? They lost all their contacts. Who's not using Google Contacts or iCloud? Is that really true? Like people are really like
people still do it.
How do you lose your contacts?
They say I'll do that later on their phone when they set up their phones, and then they never actually go back around and set it up later.
Whatever.
I have contacts on my phone that I have no idea who they are. Like not a clue. Like, and they'll have like little things written about them. Like I'll just be like Bob, dude from the bar or something, like, you know, and you know, 6 months, a year, I might remember who they're talking about, but now like I have no clue. And I'm afraid to delete them because I don't know who necessarily they are. But
this is really true.
Maybe I'll remember one day.
What? See, I learned this from somebody who, before I started dating, that you want to know who's calling you.
Oh, absolutely.
Also, I'll give you a bonus tip. Spokeo.com. SPOKEO.com.
You almost said word of the word as the letter. I love it.
Spokeo. I am hopped up on pain meds, but this is pretty cool, Jason, because it just started checking 228 contacts. There's 32 with updates already.
Oh.
And I'm pretty good about updating my contacts.
Right.
But I do want to know who's calling me.
Sure.
Because I don't answer phone numbers. I don't answer calls from phone numbers. I don't, except for I did. It was my surgeon. She was calling. She was coming. But like, I'm like, she goes, oh, I promise I didn't like ruin your social security number. I've been getting those like a lot lately. But that's a really great, no, keeping contacts, like it matters. Like we've built all these people, plus, you know, who is calling? Like,
especially their photos. Their photos are super important because you can now remember what they look like now instead of what they used to look like back when you met them first in high school or something like that.
Or when you get added to a giant group text message.
Oh my gosh.
And all you see is like 2 letters for their name, if you even have that. Come on.
Well, folks, shall we wrap it up?
Yeah, that was a great episode.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much for hanging out with us, Jeff. We really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to what you guys do over there at NorthStack because I'm super excited to try it out and start playing around with it. These are those types of things that as a developer you need to be able to know the things that are out in the environment, play around with stuff, and then not all these web hosts are created equally, and they're not all made for all the different types of sites that are out there. So you got to know what's out there and play around with it. So I would highly suggest checking out NorthStack. And if you haven't used Pagely before, see if you can get one of your customers over there just so you can check it out and see how it goes. I want to say thank you very much for hanging out with us. I want to say thank you to Desktop Server for sponsoring us, as well as Pizza. So thank you very much for all that. You can go to our website at WPwatercooler.com/subscribe. That's where you can figure out how you can subscribe to this content and all the other content that's happening out there. We really appreciate it. We have these 2 different shows that are on here, so that's where you can figure out how to subscribe. Talk to y'all later. You have a good one. Bye.
Bye.